So hello everyone, this is Technology Associate Michael, and welcome to this week's Grow with Google presentation. So far in the previous 2 weeks we focused on making a great resume with Google Docs, and then last week we focused on how to sort of supercharge your job search with Google Tools, and today we are going to focus on how to basically up your communication game with Google Calendar and Gmail. Um, some of this stuff may be familiar to you, some of it won't. Might not be familiar. The thing about the Google products is the interfaces are very, very uh, basic and simple, and that's great, but it also can sometimes make it hard to discover all the functionality that are built into their tools. So hopefully today you at least learn one or two new tricks. So just to briefly go over our agenda, we're going to create and share a new calendar. We're going to add an event to that calendar. And then we're going to move on from calendars to Gmail. We're going to show you how to receive and accept invitations in Gmail. And then finally, how to create an email signature. Email signature, a very useful feature, especially if you're sending out, say, a ton of emails applying for jobs or cover letters. To not have to sit there and retype your contact information every single time in the email is extremely useful. And just to sort of put a frame around all of this, um, Grow with Google is sort of aimed at helping, as I'm sure you've realized for the first two presentations, it's really aimed at helping you build up your digital skill set so that if you are searching for a job, you're going to be up to date and ready to go with what employers are looking for in 2020. And obviously, Calendar and Gmail are essential skills. Virtually every organization in the world now uses some form of these tools. Montville Public Library is no different. We use the Gmail platform for our employee email, as well as we use the the Google Calendar to sort of set up events for internal training or internal meetings. So we're just like even a nonprofit public institution like ourselves, we rely on these tools. So again, it's very important to sort of have them mastered, squared away, and under your belt. So the first step, just as in the last 2 weeks, is you have to sign in with your Google account. This is the same as your Gmail account if you already have a Gmail account. So you'd simply go to google.com and then click in the sign in button in the upper right corner as is being shown to you here in this illustration. So if you don't have one yet, you're going to want to go ahead and hit sign in and then create account in the lower left corner of the resulting window. So I've gone ahead and logged into my Google account, and here I am on my home page. And if you notice in the upper right corner, there is a grid, a 3x3 grid of dots. That is the link to all of the Google apps in the system. So the last couple of weeks we focused a lot on Docs and Sheets, but today we're going to focus on Calendar and Gmail. So we'll start with Calendar, and that is represented by this icon right here. So if I go ahead and click that, that is going to go ahead and open up my calendar. You'll notice here on the left-hand navigation underneath the actual dates, there is My Calendars and Other Calendars. So to create a new calendar, you click the plus sign next to Other Calendars. And then the second option is Create New Calendar. So we're going to go ahead and click that. Now we're going to give it a name. Obviously, you want this name to be descriptive and meaningful both for yourself and for anyone else who you might share this calendar with. So in this case, we're going to create a calendar called Weeding Schedule. And this calendar, fictionally, would be for the library staff to keep track of the weeding tasks that we perform on a weekly basis to make sure that we're keeping the collection current and relevant. And so the second option is description, and again, you want to make this short but relevant and meaningful to anyone who you'd be sharing this calendar with. You want the description to reflect what's inside the calendar so that the person who is getting access to it and you're sharing it with knows what to do with it. So in this case, I'm simply going to type this calendar tracks our weekly weeding tasks. Please enter all scheduled weeding tasks in this calendar. Okay, great. The third option is time zone. It will default to whatever you set your time zone to when you created your Google account. The only time this can become tricky is if perhaps you were living in another time zone years ago when you created your Google account. Now you've moved to this time zone. You just want to make sure that it's been updated to reflect your current time zone and not the old one. And then finally, these are just information. The owner of this calendar is me, and the organization is the library. So once all of that is set, I'm going to go ahead and click Create Calendar. And it just takes a minute or two. You'll notice the status down here will say it's in progress. Usually about 30 seconds or so. It's gone ahead and now it's created it successfully. So if we back out of settings, you'll now notice that weeding schedule is now listed in my calendars. So that's exactly what we want. Now let's go ahead and show you how to create an event in that calendar and how to invite people to that calendar, first of all, I should say. So if we go to weeding schedule and we click on the three dots, the third option is settings and sharing. So we're going to click that. So you can also edit the name in the description up here if you'd like to. Access permissions. So you can make this calendar available to the entire public, which maybe sometimes you would need to do that, but most of the time you're going to keep it available just for your organization internally, which is the default selection. Then down here is where you actually can share with specific people, either within or outside of the organization. And you simply do that by clicking the Add People button. And then you would add each person one by one by either their name or their email address. If you have people you contact frequently in the organization, they may come up as defaults, as they have here for me. And then once you have their email and name in there, you're going to go ahead and give them a permission level. So there's 4 different levels that Google has. The first one is they can't even see the details of the event. They can only see if there's an event scheduled. The second option lets them see if there's an event scheduled and any details associated with that event. The third option allows them to edit events, so they can change time and title and that sort of thing. And then the fourth and most permissive option is they can make changes to the calendar and events, and they can also manage the sharing. So that would give them the permission to stop sharing the calendar with certain people, add other people as they see fit. And so you would choose one of these 4 levels of permission based on the person, their role, and your relationship to them in the organization. I'm not going to actually invite anybody to this fake calendar, so we're just going to go ahead and hit cancel right there. And now once again, we'll back out of settings. And let's say we wanted to schedule a weeding task for next week. What I like to do is it defaults to weekly view. I kind of prefer monthly view. It just makes it a lot more like a traditional calendar, and I find that for me, at least personally, that's a lot easier to work with. But of course, you can choose whatever view you find the most helpful and useful. But let's say we wanted to go ahead and create an event on the weeding schedule calendar for Tuesday, the 18th of August. So we're just going to go ahead and click on that square. We can give it a title, so let's call this History Book Weeding. We have the day, so it's going to be the 18th. Some events are all day. Most events won't be all day, although it does give you a default check mark of all day. So we're going to go ahead and uncheck that in this case. And then we can choose the time frame. So let's say this task is going to take place from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. We've got a lot of weeding to do. And then you can also set a repeat. So you can make this event repeat every single day. You can make it repeat every week on Tuesday, which is the day we're setting it for. This happens to be the 3rd Tuesday of August, so maybe it's only going to happen on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. Maybe it's only going to happen once a year, um, in which case it would be annually on every August 18th. Maybe it happens Monday through Friday, but not on Saturday and Sunday. You have that option. And then you can even drill further into customizing it. But let's assume this is a one-time event and it does not repeat. So we're just going to leave it on does not repeat. Event details, you can go ahead and add locations. You can even add an invitation to a Google video conference called Google Meet, which is another free part of the Google Suite. That would make it so that when a person accepts the invitation, they'll also get a link to a virtual meeting. So this would be very useful if you were creating a event that was in fact not an event in the physical world, but a video conference, video chatting event. You can specify notification interval. So a lot of people like email notification. You could set that to minutes before, hours before, days before, even weeks before. I usually find about a 30-minute, and you can either click up with the hours or you can just type it in. A 30-minute notification by email is what I usually like to use. So that person will get an email 30 minutes before reminding them, hey, you have a meeting coming up that you've accepted. And then you want to make sure it's the right schedule. So the default is your personal calendar. You want to make sure you change that to the appropriate calendar. So in this case, it's weeding schedule. And then you can add a description. We will be weeding the entire history collection, or whatever would be appropriate there. You can even format the description. You could even attach a file to the description. Maybe, in this case, we would attach a list of all the books that we have decided we're going to weed out of the collection, for example. Once you have all of that, then you're going to go ahead and add guests. So you're going to go ahead and, again, start putting in one by one each person you want to invite to this event. And again, they have permissions. So you might want them to be able to modify this event just this one time if they don't already have the ability to modify all events. You may want to give them the ability to invite other people to this event. You may not. You may want to give them the ability to see the guest list in full. You may not. So again, you can set all of these with these three boxes right here. Once you have everything the way you want it, you're going to go ahead and just click the blue Save button up here. And now on my calendar, I have the event. It's literally that simple to create an event in Google Calendar. Signed into the Gmail account of our public email address, mtpl@montvillelibrary.org, so I could demonstrate the Gmail portion of this Grow with Google talk to you. Again, I access Gmail by clicking on my grid of 9 dots and selecting Gmail. So the first thing I wanted to show you here is I actually created an invitation to that book weeding event, and I sent it to mtpl@montvillelibrary.org. I added it as one of my guests. So I just wanted to show you what an invitation when you send one out from a Google Calendar event looks like. And you'll notice here we have the title. We can view it on our own calendar. We have the date and the time. And who it's from. In this case, it's from Weeding Schedule, which was the name of the calendar. And then we have yes, maybe, and no options in terms of responding to if we're going to attend this event or not. And then we'll notice down here, there's actually any note or description that the inviter has sent to the invitee. And in this case, it says attendance for this weeding event is optional. And so let's assume that I was busy that day and I'm not going to be able to make it. So I'm just going to go ahead and click no. And that will go ahead and email that person and let them know that we declined the event. It kicks me out, and you'll notice it puts a strike through on that event because I declined it. So that's basically how you decline an event in Google Calendar. I'm now going to go back into the Gmail account, and I want to show you a few more tricks. So compose, this is how you write a new email. So let's go ahead and click that. The compose window opens down here, kind of small. I usually like to hit this second button here that makes it full screen and a lot larger. just because I find it a lot easier to work with a larger window than a tiny little, almost postage stamp sized window. Um, so here's the to field. In this case, I'm going to send this email to myself because this is just a demo. I also have CC for carbon copy, so I can copy multiple people. And I also have BCC, which if I click that, that would give me a blind carbon. Um, so useful if you want to send an email to a group, but you don't want everyone in the group to see each other's email addresses. The subject of this email is going to be test, but normally you give it a much more descriptive title, and then you just compose your text here, which again, it would probably be a lot more, how shall I say, understandable when you're writing an actual email. Um, you can also format the text in this email with Gmail. You can make it bold. You can italicize and underline. You can change the font if you'd like. You can change the size all the way up to huge. Um, I'm going to go ahead and put this back down to normal. You can change the alignment, so I can make it center aligned. We can make it right aligned. Or you can make the first lines right aligned and then the rest center aligned or left aligned. Extremely easy. You can change the color, so we can make this text orange. We could make this text blue. We can also change the background color. So maybe we want the text in the background to have a green highlight behind it. So all of these highlighting tools are included. They're easy to miss because they're very small. And that's not even all of them. There's even more, but those are the main ones. So don't miss them. And again, that's one of the advantages of making the window larger is that you can see a lot easier all of these tools you have. Another key one is the paperclip. That's attachments. So if you wanted to attach a document to an email or a picture or really anything, you have to hit that paperclip and then select the relevant document right here. If the attachment is very large, it's not going to be attachable in an email. And what Gmail will do is it will prompt you to share it via Google Drive. And we will cover Google Drive. We have covered it a little bit. We'll cover it some more in the future, but Google Drive will help you to share files that are too large for an email attachment. But if you're just attaching like a PDF document or a graphic or a picture, it should be fine to be attached within the email itself. Another thing I wanted to show you really quick was signatures. So if you see this little pen here, that's the signature button. And then you click on Manage Signatures. So let me just show you that really quick. It'll take a minute to load up here. Okay, so it's behind our Compose window. This option, it'll highlight this because we selected Manage Signature. This will be appended at the end of all outgoing messages. And you can actually have multiple signatures, so maybe you want one signature for one set of emails you send or one audience, and another for another, and another for another. In this case, we have no signature set, so let's go ahead and click this button here that says Create New. We're going to call this Default Signature, and then we're going to click Create. And now we can go ahead and make our signature. And again, we have all of those formatting tools that I showed you before. We have them here, and even more options here. So you can make the signature any way you like it. I tend to keep it very simple. So I'm just going to create a demo signature here for the library. Okay, so we've got our name here. We've got our address. And you don't want to make your signature longer than, 3 or 4 lines at the most. Just because a really long signature can be distracting. So I'm going to go ahead and put our postal address here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put our phone number here. Okay. Great. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just bold our name. And I'm going to go ahead and just to demo, I'm going to go ahead and put this in italics. So the phone number is italicized. Hopefully that makes it pop off the signature a little bit more than the surrounding text. Great. So I've gone ahead and I have created my signature. So I can actually set a default again. So if for new emails, use default signature. So now it's always going to be there automatically every time I create a new compose window. So let me go ahead and save those changes and I'll show you how that looks. So if I go ahead and hit my compose button, you'll notice now that at the appended to the end of the email is the signature I created. So again, very useful, so you don't have to type that information over and over again in every single email you send out. And again, you can have more than one, so if you have a different audience, it is easy to create multiple signatures. So that's really it for this week in terms of communication with Google Calendar and Gmail. I hope you found this useful, and I hope you join me next week for our next Google Grow with Google event. Thanks and have a great week. Take care.